Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Success Vitamin Talk with me, Pritha Dubey. I am a sales professional and a sales coach and the creator of Success Vitamin. And today, it's an honor for me to have with me Theodore May. He prefers addressing him as Ted. Ted has an MBA from New York University, and he has spent over 25 years as a senior corporate executive in product, business, and corporate strategy with both Fortune 500 companies like the CBS Television Network and America Online and tech startups. Before his career as an executive, Ted was a professional actor on the stage in New York City with the New York Shakespeare Festival, Lincoln Center, the Manhattan Theater Club, and other leading theater companies throughout the US. He's a graduate of the Juilliard's School's drama division. It's the merger of these two experiences that prepared Ted to become a coach for executives and graduate business school students, showing them how they can apply universal principles of life performance to their work as managers to develop presence and dramatically improve their influence and effectiveness in the workplace. So, without much delay, welcome, Ted, to this talk show.
Thank you, Pritha. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me to join you.
Welcome, welcome. And when I promoted this talk show, I said that the topic of this talk show is the simple performance or presentation techniques that you can borrow from theater.
Yes.
So therefore, my first question, what are some of the ways in which the executives or the business leaders are like actors?
Sure. The place to begin, I think, is in accepting that many of the things that we do in business are, in fact, live performances. The ability to present yourself and your work and your ideas and your recommendations and decisions and analysis and all of that to groups of fellow managers, either your staff or your colleagues or even senior managers. That's the most important thing we can do in business. And that act in and of itself is effectively giving a live performance. We used to think, back in the day when I was a professional actor, we used to define the world into like, there are performers and then there's the real world, as if they were two separate and very distinct universes. And when I crossed over from the professional theater over into business, I felt that the two had to be kept very separate, that they were very different activities and undertakings, to the point where I actually kept the fact that I had been a performer and an actor a total secret. It's like I didn't want anybody in business to know about it because I thought they wouldn't take me seriously if they knew, you used to be an actor. So I kept it very, very separate. And it was only over the course of my career that I began to realize that no, they're not separate at all. They're actually very similar and very close. And you can see it most clearly, I think, in this idea of acting or being an actor. And, in the word in English, why are those two things so closely related? Acting and being an actor, taking action. And on the stage, we act proactively. In business, we act. Meetings end with action items. What action are we going to take? Which infers that you're going to become an actor and you're going to take acting. And acting and taking action in business, that is what we do. In business, we're not paid to do nothing. We're not paid to just sit around and do nothing. We're paid to take action. And that by definition means you need to be an actor and take actors. So then there are all these principles of live performance that we learned from the performing arts over thousands of years in the development of culture. The same kinds of principles can be brought to bear and apply in the workplace to make you much more effective, give you much more confidence, and just increase your influence and the power that you can have in the workplace. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Although I would like to kind of ask you, I would ask you to
Yes.
elaborate a little further on that. You
Okay.
said there are certain principles that we can borrow, right? And
Sure.
we can bring it to our
Yeah.
real world when we are performing. So could you tell us what kind of principles can we apply when we are in our corporate corporate
Sure.
world? Yeah.
So there are sort of two levels on which you can think about this. One, I admit, is a little more theoretical, like the theoretical plane, that why the particular things, the very specific things I'm going to say are true. And we know that they work. They work because we know that these principles apply. And the principles are very simple and sometimes obvious, to the point where people or executives would say, oh, sure, of course, I know that. But they're very often overlooked. We forget about them, and we forget how important they really are. And I'll give you an example of the
Yeah.
first one is that the first principle of live performance is that a performance is a shared experience between the presenter or the actor, or in this case, the executive, and the audience.
Yeah.
And whether that audience is one person or two or three or many people, the
Right.
audience, it is a shared engagement between the speaker, the actor, the performer, and the audience. But in business, we tend to think of that kind of engagement as adversarial, me against you. So it's like in this dialogue, it's like a competition, or if it's a negotiation that we're competing with one another. I'm trying to win, you're trying to win. But actually, the engagement is a shared experience. I need you, and you need me.
True.
There's something you
True.
want and you need from me. There's something
True.
I want and I need from you. And so
True.
just remembering that it's not a fight, or it's not a war, or it's not a conflict, that it's a
Hmm.
shared experience, is a really important point to begin with.
All right. Okay. Just give me a second. I'm going to share the slide for the benefit of everyone, and you may just take them through. Yes, here we are. Are you able to see it?
I can see it perfectly.
Yes, I believe the audience is able to see it too. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so these are the live principles that I was referring to before that apply to a live performance on stage. As we draw back the curtain, this is what needs to happen. And it begins, like I said, with the shared experience between the audience and the presenter, or the executive, or the speaker, the person who is managing the meeting. It's going to be a shared experience that's bounded by time and space. The third very important point is that it is a meaningful event with purpose and intent, meaning there's a reason you are here as a member of the audience. There is a reason I am here as the presenter, because I have important information to share with you. And there's information that you and your audience are seeking, that want to know. And
Hmm.
so I have to come prepared, if I am the guest and imparting this important information, with truly valuable information that has purpose and intent. The fourth one is really important in business, and it took me a long time to come to terms with this. It is emotional as well as intellectual, meaning it has emotional appeal, what we're talking about, as well as intellectual appeal. In business, we like to think of ourselves as being exclusively data driven. We're
Hmm.
focused only on data and
Hmm.
decision making, information and data.
Hmm.
And that's really important for decision making. And that's what we learn in business school, right? We were taught how to make decisions, how to gather the
Right.
data, do the analysis, create a model, and make a decision. But
Hmm.
when you
Hmm.
get out into corporate life and into the workplace, you
Hmm.
realize that decision making is only half of it. The other half is implementation. Because if you fail to implement those decisions, you've accomplished nothing. Nothing has
Hmm.
happened. And as long as we're managing people, right, when it comes to motivating, inspiring, and what I call transforming their thinking and moving them to action, you realize that emotion, playing to their emotions, is as important as making a rational, data-driven decision. Just like in the performing arts, we aren't robots, we aren't automatons. We appeal to people's emotions, and we do that through narratives, storytelling, giving people roles that they can see themselves playing and fulfilling. And that's what energizes them to take action and turns them into actors as well. So I'll come back to emotion later because it's really important. Then, just quickly, clear definition of roles and relationships. I mean, you have to know, who am I? What do I want? What am I doing? What each other person who you're trying to motivate to action, what they're doing. It's like they're characters in a play. Like they all have roles to play that all contribute to the narrative and to the outcome. And then finally, we come back to this idea of acting, a bias for action that invites a response from people. So anyone who's listening to this program, I'm not speaking just to hear myself talk or just to, throw ideas out there. I want to try to move you to action and get a response from you, which is going to be to try to think about what I'm talking about and then try some of these things yourself at work. So that's the sum of sort of the theoretical basis. And all of these principles apply to any live performance, whether it's music, dance, drama, opera, whatever you can think of. All of these things have to be at work in order for performance to be successful. And what I'm arguing is that in the workplace, it's the same thing. All of these ideas have to be at work. I work in two realms. One is what I call executive presence.
Yes, I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Okay, being physically present, in the workplace and available. And then I spend a lot of time working on presentation skills, the more formal stand up in front of an audience and, and present ideas. So I'm going to start with one idea from presentation skills, which is a question I get asked a lot from all of the executives and business students I work with who have to give presentations and who are very nervous about it, get very anxious and nervous. One of the questions they always ask is, what should I do with my hands?
Right.
when I'm giving a presentation. Yes. And I always think that's funny because that's the same question that amateur actors always ask, when they're rehearsing a play. And not inexperienced actors is, what do I do with my hands? And so in presentation, there are some things that you can do that are very, very simple. And the first thing is to have a light object to hold in one of your hands. Okay. When you're giving a presentation, what that usually is the clicker, the slide clicker to advance, and pointer. That's what, this is your friend, right, for a lot of reasons. Because if you just hold it lightly in your hand, down by your side, you will find that will calm your hand down. And I'll come back to calm hands in a moment, very easily. If you don't have an object like that, even if you have a small coin, like find the smallest coin that you can have, or even a paper clip, to just hold in your fingertips, so the audience can't see it. But if you're just holding something small and light in your hand, you can also feel the weight of that weigh your hands down by your side. All right. And third is, you can put one hand in your pocket if you're wearing slacks or trousers, not two, only one. And then you can use your other hand to gesture with. But what we want is what we call strong arms. I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see me a little bit. We want strong arms, but we want calm hands. We don't want hands like this. We don't. So fingers together, not tightly like paddles, but fingers lightly together, and down at your side. And then if you breathe in conjunction with that, it relaxes your body, and just let the weight of the light things you're holding in your hands weigh down your arms.
Interesting. Ted, on this point, I am going to ask you two questions on
Sure.
on these lines, but on two different aspects. The first question is when you spoke about holding something in a hand. Now, I understand if it's a coin or maybe a paper clip and it is not visible, it's fine. But what I have noticed, and this is all the other presentation skills program that I have conducted, what I've seen is that yes, people are comfortable. I think that is a very reflex thing that people have, that because I don't know what am I supposed to do with my hand, so it's very natural that let me hold a pen or sometimes a marker in the hand. All
Yes.
right.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so there are two things I've observed that happens with presenters, and that is the reason why I have always advised, please don't hold a pen, because more often than not, they are so at that time they're so anxious about the presentation, or they are so nervous about the presentation, they start playing with that object in their
Yes.
hand. So
Yep.
either they are doing that tuck 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 that is happening with the pen, or they're just playing with it in both the hands or the marker, or sometimes when they're talking, they're pointing the marker towards the person, I want to talk to you, which again becomes very, very rude to point
Yes.
someone with the marker, or even play with it, because it becomes very distracting
Yeah.
even for your audience to keep noticing you play with the marker. So
Yes.
in that case,
Two.
what would be your advice?
Yeah.
That is
So
my question number one. Then I'll come to the second question.
two comments on that. The reason why what you're describing is counterproductive is because everything visual, whether it's on a screen like what we're doing now or live, any sound, any motion is information, right? Any movement I make, any sound I make, imparts information. When I start doing this, I'm creating noise. There's no information value in this at all, in what I'm doing. And so
Right.
it just creates clutter and noise. And our
Absolutely.
goal is to reduce noise, to get rid of it. So if you have something in your hand like that, what you should be focused on is not the utility of it, but rather the weight of it. And let the weight of it carry you down to your side. So I
Right.
would say if someone is fiddling with their pen, I'd say stop right there. I want you to feel the weight of that pen and let that weight draw your hand down inexorably down to your side, and let the weight of it hold you there as if that pen weighed 50 pounds. So, feel that weight and let it. Another thing that people like to have in their hands, and they always ask me, is if I'm giving a presentation, can I keep note cards? Can I hold note cards in my hand? And I always go, sure, right? There's some rules around using note cards, how to use them. But it's the same idea, because what I find often is it's like a security blanket. Once they have the note cards, they actually don't refer to them that often. They just like to know they're there, in their hand if they need them. But I say exactly the same thing. Hold them and let the weight of them carry your arms down to your side, not, hold them up here and try to
Yeah.
hide behind them, or, just get lost in reading.
Right. Or probably just completely, write your entire script on the note card and just continue looking at it, reading it.
Yeah, no reading scripts.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
my
Right.
number one rule. And that
Right.
goes even just for a personal dialogue, an intimate one-to-one dialogue, like, you and I are having in isolation right now. If we were meeting together and I were just sitting here and just reading a script to you, it would completely violate that first principle of the shared experience,
Shared
because
experience.
I'm not letting you participate in it. It's a one way, I'm doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay?
During this time, last couple of months, and we don't know for how long, we will have to depend a lot on virtual presentations. And whether we are selling, or I'm a leader and I have to manage my team, or convince my senior management, or talk to my stakeholders, whatever has to be done now has to be done virtually. right?
Yes.
So, what elements, therefore? I mean, what are certain things in a virtual presentation or virtual performance? What are some things that one should keep in mind in the current world? Because I'll tell you the reason why many are feeling that they aren't able to create that impact on the other person, because that one aspect of being face to face, that's lost. So, how do we compensate if that's lost? Then, how do we compensate that on a virtual presentation?
Yeah, it's really hard because I mean, it's an excellent question, and I think we're all having that experience and feeling that right now. The biggest change is one of the key elements in what I call, classic presentation or operating in actual space
Hmm,
is very different from operating in virtual space.
hmm, hmm.
The space aspects of it, which are incredibly important, become reduced down to a flat, two-dimensional, very tiny little screen. The first question I always get asked is, where should I be looking? Should I be looking at you,
Hmm.
when you're speaking, or should I be looking at the camera?
Camera.
Most people end up watching themselves, speak. And it's when I'm listening to you, I want to be able to see you. And it's
True.
important for me to see your face. We read lips a lot. And it's also important for me to quote unquote read the room, to see the environment that you're in, because you're in a different space than the space that I'm in. But when I
True.
speak, what I like to do is speak to the camera and relate
Camera.
to the camera.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
in virtual space, rather than one shared space that we actually live in a multiverse.
Hmm.
Every one of us is in our own space right now. Every one of us is having a very different ambient environmental experience.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
my job to try to reach through the camera and reach every individual person who is out in the multiverse who may
Yeah.
be listening to you. And even though right now we may be speaking to a collective audience of, 3, 10, 15, 20, or 10,000,
Hmm.
it's really important when you're speaking to that group to make every person feel as if you're speaking to them
Them.
personally, one on one. And
Right.
so as you relate, rather than giving a presentation, standing back and doing a big, I'm speaking to a million people, what you want to do is use your camera and
Mm-hmm.
imagine that your camera is actually, that you're actually talking to one individual person in the
Okay.
camera and speak to them directly as if you're speaking to them. What's still the most important thing is the voice. Your
Yeah.
much more important than how I look
Right.
is that you can hear me, that you can understand me, and that I'm using my voice in a way that captures your attention.
In the virtual presentation aspect, the attention span is so limited. It is so
Yeah.
easy for all of us to get distracted. It's very easy. There are probably somebody opening the door. There is something happening in front of me, and in that time, the only thing that can bring me back is that voice. Now, imagine if I say this in an absolutely drab and monotonous way that
Yes.
I'm trying to present this proposal, and this is a very interesting proposal. The other party is going to say, you know what, how about we talk about it some other day? I have something important coming up. So yes, the voice plays a very important role, whether I am able to communicate on video or whether I'm not able to communicate on video.
Yep.
But working on the voice becomes therefore very, very critical.
So I'm going to give you two very particular ideas and secrets that
Yeah.
you can use. One is what I call there are rules of three in
Hmm.
performance. One of the
Hmm.
rules of three is you always have 3 seconds of silence to work with.
Okay.
We often forget the importance of silence. Don't be afraid to, I'm doing this right now, don't be afraid to stop talking. And you can always stop talking for up to 3 seconds before the audience starts to get worried. So rather
Okay.
than just talking in a steady, nonstop stream and interrupting, pause.
Mm-hmm.
Use silence, like in music. A silent beat is an important part of the melody. And it
Mm-hmm.
also gives the audience time to catch up, to process what you're saying and absorb it and get it and start to think of responses in their own head.
True.
So I
True.
can talk and stop as long as I start up again after
Yeah.
3 seconds of silence. So, and a lot of people get nervous to the point where they feel like I can't stop talking. I have to fill every actual moment because otherwise people might ask me questions or I'll forget what I want to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
The
that's
other,
one.
sorry, the number two is people always ask, what's the best way to rehearse? If they have to give a speech or they have to give a presentation, how should I rehearse? And I always say, pick a piece of music that you think is fitting for the subject matter that you're dealing with. Put on
Okay.
some music and then say what it is you want to say as if it's lyrics or melody to a song over the music,
Wow.
because
Okay.
that will introduce musicality into your voice. You'll find some
Mm.
highs, you'll find some lows, you'll speed up, you'll slow down, and you'll get what we call vocal variety. And then what you'll find is once you've mapped what you want to say to the music, it's much easier to remember what it is you want to say, even when the music is not there. And
Okay.
the proof to that is, why is it always easier to remember lyrics to a song than it is to memorize a speech or to remember lines of poetry?
True.
Because
True.
it's mapping it to the music that imprints it in your mind and your head and makes it easier to remember. So practice that way.
Agree. Agree. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful, wonderful, and I feel that this time, the more we talk to you, the more we will get the learning and the understanding of how we need to present ourselves. And I know that I can get you anytime to
Yes.
take a session here for all of us and all that stuff. And I am talking to you, and I'll very soon get that thing happening for the Indian participants and for everyone to learn from you. I would like to thank you for taking out your time and gracing this talk show with your wisdom. Thank you so much, Ted, for being here.
Thank you again for having me. And I hope you can tell, I love to talk about this because I believe so strongly in how important it is. And so I would be happy to come back anytime. And there's much, much more, that we didn't cover. So thanks for having me. It's a joy to be here.
Thank you so much. And to all my viewers, I would like to say, as Ted said, that there is a link between live performance, whether we are doing it on the stage or we are having here in a corporate world or whatever job that we are doing. And these performances are guided by a few principles. Now, as Ted mentioned, the most critical one that we should always keep in mind is there is a shared experience between when what I am saying and and the person with whom I am dealing with, whether it is one, whether it is 15, but we should try and have a shared experience with them. And also what Ted shared about presentations, let us keep in mind that the anxiety and those butterflies are okay to have. It is not that that is something wrong with us if we are having those butterflies, but there are ways to control that butterfly. And even if I can't control that butterfly, there are ways I can stop displaying that nervousness. There is a way in which, whether I feel confident or not, but I can definitely display confidence. And the third important aspect, please keep in mind, use your voice, because that is definitely an attention catcher. So use your voice and uh, impress people in the virtual world while you are talking to them. So, with that, I thank you all for being a part of this talk show. And I'm going to see you again in the next episode next week. Till then, take care and stay safe.